Hey everyone, James Niggemeyer here. Thank you for tuning back into my YouTube channel. Today I want to talk about something that I've never talked about on my YouTube channel, and that's the Alabama rig. It's just a tremendous technique. Literally, once it comes into the fall, through the winter, and into the early spring, even pre-spawn, the Alabama rig is a phenomenal way to catch bass, specifically in the colder water months. Not that it doesn't work other times of the year, but this guy is really strong at catching not only fish, not only numbers, but big ones, specifically in the cold water period. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel, please hit the subscribe button. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up and drop a comment down below. So the Alabama rig. This is known by a few different names: the A rig, the umbrella rig, the Alabama rig, whatever you want to call it. Some even call it the chandelier, because literally, man, it does look like a chandelier. It's got a lot of flashing blades, a lot of swim baits, and it's just got a lot of brightness to it. So the Alabama rig, or chandelier as some people like to call it, is a tremendous tool for catching bass. So I'm going to go over just kind of a once over or an overview of fishing this particular technique. I don't fish it enough and I don't fish it a lot, because most of the time in the tournaments that I fish, you're not allowed to even fish it. They won't allow a multi-hook harness or rig like that that has multiple hooks in play on one single cast. So that's why we don't fish it. So I don't really fish it a lot. I might use it from time to time in some guide trips around the house. And what I mean around the house, the Northeast Texas lakes that I guide on, I might actually use it for that. But it's a tremendous fish catcher. It'll put numbers in the boat. It'll put little ones in the boat, and it'll put, I've seen some absolute giants caught on this thing. So we're going to go over, just do a quick once over. The Alabama rig, or umbrella rig, usually comes in some sort of a tube, and it generally doesn't have any hooks on it. I've got a couple of jig heads on this one. This is, and what I want to recommend about putting a jig head on it is, I would say, I would use either a medium heavy or lean towards the heavier end of the hook spectrum for your hook applications on an umbrella rig. And I think initially we were using 3/8 and 1/2 ounce heads on these guys, but what we've learned is that makes it fall really quick. And so guys have really lightened it up. Anything from, say, a 1/16 ounce to a 1/4 ounce really will get the job done. Because when you have 5 of these guys in play on a single cast, the weight is obviously multiplied. You throw the blades and the spinners and the swivels in there, and this guy's going to weigh quite a bit, not only on the cast but also on the descent. So you don't really need heavy jig heads. You just need a jig head to really just kind of put your little swim bait in play. And it really doesn't need to be something very large or anything. Again, this is an Owner inshore one. It's got a little corkscrew to kind of keep your swim bait from sliding down. And this one's actually just a round head, an Owner round head, and it's got that little spike or spur there that really keeps your jig heads on the bait, or on the hook and on the jig head, and not sliding down. And I've even used the Owner flashy swimmers as well. The flashy swimmer can be an effective technique on the back of an A rig if I'm fishing around a lot of timber and stuff, because once I put the swim bait on that little corkscrew right there, then I can Texas rig it and I'm good to go. So I can actually put these and add more blades in play, or I can just use this type of a hook harness setup without the blade and have kind of a more Texas rig or weedless type setup. The Alabama rig is just tremendous when you find bait fish. This time of year, it's all about the bait. You're going to drive around, graph around, look for that bait. Sometimes it's in the form of birds. Sometimes you may actually see them on the surface. A lot of times you're just driving around, looking at them with your Lowrance Electronics or whatever brand you might have rigged up on your boat, and looking for those balls of bait and even some fish underneath there. Some of the bigger tributaries are great. Sometimes down towards the dam on Lake Fork, that's where you're going to see a lot of the bait fish ganged up. say the last or bottom third closest to the dam. Seems like there's a lot of bait fish activity. You'll go other places and see bait. Major tributaries, major creeks will have bait that stay in there year round. But the bottom half of a lake is where a lot of the wintertime fishing goes down, and it doesn't seem to be as big of a deal at getting disturbed by winter rains. That cold rain, that off-colored water, that bottom end of the lake stays clearer. And I really feel like the umbrella rig or a rig works really well in that clearer water situation. So you want to stay looking for that clear water. Not that it doesn't work in stained water. With all these blades, it's kind of like a giant spinnerbait. So it can work shallow, it can work deep, but main thing, throw it out there and try to get that whole bait pattern or bait harness working through that level at which you see the bait or bass in your water column. Whether, let's say you're over 30 feet of water and that the bait and bass are down about 15 feet, try to count it down, get an idea for that rate of fall, and then just slowly reel it through there. The blades and the bait and the swim baits will just be, doing their thing, looking supernatural. One of the ones that really started it all was one like this where it did not have blades, and these work just fine. If you don't have a lot of confidence in an umbrella rig, a lot of guys are like, man, that's just a whole lot going on, and I don't disagree with you. My early days with an A-rig, I just thought it was too much going on, that I started out with a 3-arm. This one's a 5-arm, but I started out with a 3-arm and was able to catch fish on it. I just felt like it was more manageable on the deck, around the rods. I mean, it's a menace when you lay it up there. It's going to grab every rod. It's going to grab the carpet. It's going to grab your trolling motor, pull cord. It's going to get into everything. So I started out with a 3-arm, more manageable, just got comfortable with it. And as time went on, gravitated towards the 5-arm. And really, it's something that I feel like is like a giant spinnerbait or fishing a swim bait in and around that water column where the bait fish is. When it comes to tackle, I'm gonna like a longer rod. Like this is a 7'11", and it's a heavy action or a heavy power fast action, and it's rated for 15 to 65, half ounce to 3/8 ounce, or a half ounce to 3 ounce baits. And I like a bigger spool, a wider spool. This happens to be the Lew's Speed Spool, and this is a Super Duty, so it's just a bigger, beefier, wider spool, holds more line. I happen to have copolymer on there, and initially everyone was throwing their A-rigs on braid, but we've found that fluorocarbon with your A-rig, umbrella rig, chandelier, whatever you want to call it, works better at getting more bites. You can work it through those fish, and the braid doesn't seem to turn off the fish as much. You're going to get more bites with fluorocarbon. Generally 20 or 25 pound test fluorocarbon is kind of what you're going to want to use. And I believe I've got, that's a 7:1 gear ratio reel. I thought that was a 7.5, 7:1 gear ratio reel. And I like the larger rod for basically, you're not really going to cast an umbrella rig. You're just going to kind of catapult it. Just sling it overhead, and you're gonna let the rod load as you come back like this. You're gonna let that rod load, and that loading, and then you're gonna kind of bring it forward, and it'll just kind of lob it out there, slings it out there, lobs it out there, kind of catapults it in a trajectory. If you go to try to cast it like you would a traditional crankbait or a rattle trap or something like that, you're gonna really do some strenuous activity with your shoulder and or elbows and different things like that. And after a while of slinging one of those around, you're not going to like it. It's going to tire out things, and it's not going to be a whole lot of fun. Catching them will be, but your joints aren't going to appreciate it after a while. So try that lobbing type motion. Works really great for that. That's really what you want to do. When it comes to swim bait sizes, a lot of times guys are looking at more of your smaller swim baits, say a 2 3/4 inch size to a 3 1/4 to a 3 3/4 inch. Some guys will go with them larger swim baits and different things like that, but they're generally the less than 4 inch sizes. Some guys have really played with, and I have as well, as you can see here, running one color pattern around and then having one that kind of draws the attention, the spotlight's on, and it's generally that longer arm. where you're going to get more of your bites. Not that you're not going to get bites out here, because you will, but that longer arm, or the one that they can come up to first as they're following or tracking this whole menace, as I like to call it, as it goes through the water. When you have a brighter color or one that makes it stand out, they'll definitely come and hit that. So some guys will run all one color, some guys will run another color, but basically your bait fish, this is kind of a green gizzard color here, and then I've just got a pearl white on the back. Your shad colors are going to be the key. So that's really it, guys. A quick overview of the umbrella rig if you're not already throwing it, which most guys have been throwing it. And if it's just too heavy, you don't want to throw something that big, there's smaller junior sized umbrella rigs, A-rigs that you can throw. And this is the time of year to do it. I mean, it really just gets bit. And with all the forward facing sonars that we have today, you can scope out there or scan out there and really see the bait fish and or bass, make a presentation to it, watch your umbrella rig come down and then pull it towards those fish. And it's a lot like sniping a fish, or being a hunter, because you're actually making presentations to fish that are lined up in front of the boat. That's it for now, guys. A quick overview of the umbrella rig, A-rig, chandelier, the menace, whatever you want to call it. It's a fish catching machine. Make sure you're throwing those. Make sure you have one on the deck this time of year. It's something that just flat catches them. Thanks for tuning into my YouTube channel, and until next time, good fishing.